Kia ora koutou, and welcome to the very best thing about 250 different board games. This video is to celebrate us doing our 250th review. 3 Minute Board Games does not do publisher-driven content. We keep the channel going with support from Patreon, and I'm going to give a shout out to the following patrons: Dave Agnew, Andrew Miller, Jared Simmons, Luke McKinney, Michael K. Scott, Javier Escura, Rick Ballard, and Andy Hudson. These 8 patrons have all been backing 3 Minute Board Games for 4 years now. Thank you so much to them and to all the other people who support us on Patreon. You literally keep the channel going. So here's looking forward to 250 more reviews. Now just a quick note, the sound quality on this video will jump up and down because earlier videos had terrible sound quality. Apologies for that. Anyway, on to the video. The best thing about this game is winning as House Lannister. The best thing about this game is how I get to talk in my silly goblin voice while reading from the encounter book. The best thing about this game is the satisfying clunk of pearls falling in your cup when people buy cards off you. It's so damn good. The best thing about this game is the no shuffle mechanic. It allows you to build combos far more effectively than relying on the luck of the draw. The best thing about this game is the miniatures. They inspired me to get out my brushes and paint a full game for the first time in years. The best thing about this game is the little dome cities. It's why I bought it. The best thing about this game is the endurance card system. It's a novel way to show squad morale and fatigue in a campaign game. The single best thing about the game is the Chronobot. The Chronobot is a solo player mode and it plays like an actual opponent. So if you really want to play Anachrony, no one is around, the Chronobot will always be there to challenge you. The best thing about this game is the innovative worker placement system. No resets means very little downtime and game maintenance. The best thing about this game is the level of customization available. There is a lot of content in the game, and you can tune it to suit your needs and wants. The best thing about this game is the revised art and card format is leagues ahead of the original Terraforming Mars. The best thing about this game is the sheer level of interaction and crazy effects. No other worker placement game I've played allows you to rearrange other people's workers or blow up entire rooms. The best thing about this game is that each scenario has its own set of unique clue-based encounter cards, as well as codex cards, making each scenario feel quite different. The best thing about this game is the shared storytelling experience. It's excellent. The best thing about this game is that it comes with a challenge mode that suggests no talking but using hand signals instead, complete with a recommended guide of signals. The best thing about this game is the combat card system. It can get really tense, especially in long battles where injuries and sanity loss are mounting. The best thing about this game is how you have to adapt to the ever-decreasing options for placing tiles. The game slowly and surely squeezes you and ups the tension. The best thing about this game is the delicious candy-looking pieces. I really just want to eat them. The best thing about this game is the wildcard system. It opens up so many decisions about what to draft, play, and keep. The best thing about this game is the construction wheel. It's such a clever way of managing scarcity. The best thing about this game is the stamina system. It makes you feel heroic when you spend all your cubes to stomp the bad guys, but that leaves you vulnerable to counterattacks. The single best thing about the game is its fascinating rising tension. As the cost to build each part of the Dreamweaver increases, your total workforce also decreases, as workers are locked in place in the orphanage. This makes those final few turns really quite tricky to manage. The best thing about this game is when the haunt is finally underway. The best thing about this game is the wide selection of available tiles and the wonderful art on them. It's all very evocative and detailed. The best thing about the game is it scales up to 7 players with no additional game time and no additional difficulty to the rules. The best thing about this game is taking other people's dice and ruining their plans. It's also the worst thing when it happens to you. The single best thing about this game is that you get to kill Hitler. Although if they reprint the game, they should make the "We Killed Hitler" card into an A4 poster. The best thing about this game is the challenge cards. They not only give you points, but allow you to make interesting bonus plays. The best thing about this game is how well it captures the feel of a rolling street occupation against the police. The best thing about this game is the turnover rule. It makes the game all about risk management and can turn the game in an instant. The best thing about this game is that you want other players using your stuff. So take this turn. The grey player uses an iron to place a coal mine and then sells their factory. Yellow, red and grey all gain from this. The best thing about this game is the quality of the new edition. The board, minis and player aids are excellent. The best thing about this game is the stories it tells. Our apprentice here, the sole survivor of a brutal attack that left her orphaned. She sought dark power and magics, and then led an expedition of refugees into the capital, took over a gang, and became a master criminal. Her destiny was vengeance, so she succumbed to the dark magic, harnessed the power of the living flame, and slew the archmage who had destroyed her village. The best thing about this game is making your art, and before scoring it, telling a stupid, overblown story about what it represents. The best thing about this game is each turn is mechanically simple. 2 dice, 2 decisions.
The single best thing about this game is that you get to build a castle. Having your finished construct sitting in front of you at the end of the game is really satisfying.
The best thing about this game is the process of making the buildings. Playing with blocks is just fun. The best thing about this game is that it is a near-perfect combination of simplicity, decision space, and design aesthetics. The best thing about this game is the Tetris puzzle for selecting flavor tiles. The best thing about this game is that you can play anyone, anywhere. There is no language barrier. It really is a global game. The best thing about this game is how value evolves. Take this example. Yellow can sell this deed to either red or white for a huge amount, but if next turn the board changes to this, that deed is a lot less useful, as red doesn't need it and white can also deal with green. The best thing about this game is moving tiles through the factory. It's incredibly satisfying. The best thing about this game is while the values rolled on the dice do matter, there are so many mechanisms to manipulate them and so many locations to choose from that you are rarely cursing your rolls.
The single best thing about the game is the dramatic swings and changes that can occur via disasters and mismanagement. It's easy to build a large civilization, but very hard to keep one for long.
The best thing about this game is the asymmetry is off the charts. Each faction doesn't feel a little different, they have totally different toolkits, powers, and playstyles. The best thing about this game is the prefix system. I love how it rewards you for producing in regions other people are in. It's just simple and elegant. The best thing about this game is its influence it's had on the hobby. It's 45 years old and the granddaddy of all variable power games. The best thing about this game is the church and the tombstones. It's something quite unique, and watching those bodies pile up is both fascinating and terrifying. The best thing about this game is the decision space. You have to optimize every action, manage your resources, and plan turns in advance. Everything in this game is tight, and you always feel challenged by the goal. The best thing about this game is its commitment to science first and making the mechanics still work. I love that. The best thing about this game is its customization and variety. Oh, and the backstories of the characters, like this guinea pig safety tester, bless. The best thing about this game is how it lovingly plays on classic sci-fi tropes. Thematically, everything clicks. The best thing about this game is the Franken monsters you build. If the idea of a winged Arabian porcupine bison seal doesn't make you smile, you probably won't enjoy the game. The best thing about the game is the narrative it creates. The combination of events, fate cards, heroes, and dice rolls generates a lot of memorable moments.
The single best thing about this game is the companion Crossroads card app. We link it to a speaker and pass the tablet around, and the narration adds a lot of atmosphere to the game.
The best thing about this game is the scoring system, because discharging more patience at the same time is more points. It adds a push your luck element to the game that I really enjoy. The best thing about this game is you can pick up enough to play in a very small box. More content is just more variety, but you can play the game with any one of these boxes. The best thing about this game is it has short, medium, and long play modes with their own objectives. I wish more games would do this. The best thing about this game is the villain guides. Teaching asymmetric games is normally a pain, and this one thing makes it so much easier. The best thing about the game is its commitment to the Doctor Who IP. It really feels like a love letter to the show.
The single best thing about the game is the scoring system. It's logical, it's simple, and it reinforces the theme.
The best thing about this game is the mind games around the combat wheel and figuring out your battle plans. The best thing about this game is that there's no useless card. Anything you don't use to place workers can be used in the reveal phase. The best thing about this game is the Bene Gesserit win condition. Make a secret prediction at the start of the game, and if it comes true, you win. An amazing concept. The best thing about the game is the influence system. It represents the limitations of growing an empire extremely well.
The single best thing about this game is the event cards. Each one is tailored to a planet, and they have colourful and important impacts on the game. The most memorable event for me was one that involved the doom of an entire world.
The best thing about this game is it's a wonderfully fresh take on a very tired genre. The best thing about this game is when your engine is running and you have a lot of power, and one worker placement becomes half a dozen different actions.
The single best thing about this game is the resource tracker cards. I don't know why every resource management game doesn't come with these, as they are a huge time saver.
The best thing about this game is this neat mechanic where if you roll badly or the monsters roll well, you get some compensation afterwards. The best thing about this game is the meadow. Having publicly playable cards dramatically increases your options and adds tension between players. The best thing about this game is it presents billionaires as the awful people they truly are. I'm breaking my single best rule for this game because it has 3 things that really need praise. First, the dry erase board for scoring. For games with a lot of ways to score points, this is simply amazing and I'd love to see it done more often. Secondly, The individual player boards with their own unique meeples are both good from a gameplay point and are just really cute. And finally, the book titles. I can't overemphasize how much work went into these and how fun they are. You'll likely stop during a game multiple times just to have a chuckle at.
The single best thing about the game are the encounter and quest cards. There is a huge variety of stories in here, and the system allows for easy expansion.
The best thing about this game is building a big ship in order to fulfill one of the final missions in style. The best thing about this game is it's something very different. From how it plays to how it looks, it's unique.
The single best thing about the game is the ongoing support the game is getting. New scenarios and app updates are coming out, and the game continues to be worked on, which is unusual for a board game without additional expansions.
The best thing about this game is the tension between playing safe and moving fast. Best thing about the game is that it's pretty damned inclusive. Despite the blue and pink pieces, the cards seem to work for any two-person relationship. The best thing about this game is its weird deconstruction of the deck building norms. You can't hold every card each turn, and you can draft from other players. The best thing about this game is the Pagoda Tower. It's not just for show, it's a cool mechanic in its own right. The best thing about this game is its theme and art style. It's bright, engaging, and welcoming. Well done, Mr. Cuddington. The best thing about this game is sitting down to play and thinking, where the hell do I start? The best thing about this game is the variable setup. Random regions, different text, and different combinations add huge replayability. The best thing about this game is its phone app. I've played that an awful lot. The best thing about this game is the emergent story elements. I had bonuses gaining chems from skills and schemers, and a crossroads card triggered because of that. The crew staged an intervention for my hoarding of chems, and my character's chem problem became a running part of the story for us. The best thing about this game is the gene dice and drafting. There's a lot going on here, but it's all interesting.
The single best thing about this game is its brutal, unrelenting pace. You never, ever feel in control.
The best thing about this game is the crazy amount of chained actions you can pull off. It's good times.
The single best thing about the game is the giant killer robots. They look really good, and you just feel like you are piloting a giant death machine. Lining up flanking shots of your massive laser cannon is just great fun.
The best thing about this game is the cool bonus at level 5. They're too awesome to spoil here.
The best thing about this game is the sheer amount of content it has in the box. With nearly 100 missions, there's an awful lot of game to discover.
The best thing about this game is how the board evolves through play. The players really shape the experience. The best thing about this game is that it encourages you to make your own structures and to modify the rules, so you can make a bunch of different things and play with them. The best thing about this game is its depth. This is one game you won't be solving after 2 plays. The best thing about the game is the end game, where you have a lot of variable power cards and timing of how you play them matters. The best thing about this game is the decaying Americana theme and how it sucks you into the game's story. The best thing about this game is the different monsters and how they work. Each feels like a different challenge despite having very simple mechanics. And the different mix of monsters you play with can change up the game and add variety and replayability.
The single best thing about the game is the individual abductors and how differently they play. For example, Edward Quinn in particular is a tragic story, as he's just trying to get his sick kid healthcare.
The best thing about this game is how it models cooperation. Fighting a fire without support is risky. Teamwork makes it a lot easier. The best thing about this game is it allows you to play your own Star Wars epic, where great cinematic moments can happen. The best thing about this game is the captivating nature of the puzzle it presents. Admit it, you've been watching the boat slowly fill up instead of listening to me talk right now. The best thing about this game is how densely packed it is with good decisions. The best thing about this game is its unusual 2-act structure. Each of the acts is fun in its own right as well. The best thing about this game is somehow placing a block on a teetering pile that really shouldn't fit any more blocks. The best thing about this game is rampaging around the board with giant monsters. The best thing about this game is the Cyber Bunny! It's piloted by another bunny! The best thing about this game is the single round auction. It keeps the game moving at a good pace.
The single best thing about the game is that all counselor communication is open. You can make as many plans as the counselors as you want. The noise travels far across the lake and the killer can hear them.
The best thing about this game is seeing someone testing to do a mission and then jumping the gun ahead of them and hoping your untested technology works. The best thing about this game is the inherent tension of the complex cards being face down and having to scan them. Each reveal is tense and that adds so much over the course of a game. The best thing about this game is if you like the core gameplay, you can add so many variables to it.
The single best thing about the game is the monster fighting system. It's a heck of a lot of fun and genuinely feels like you are this hero of ancient times taking down a big bad critter.
The best thing about this game is when you chain together a bunch of crazy actions and bonuses.
The single best thing about the game is that it's really inoffensive and good for almost any crowd, except perhaps really hard-bitten wargamers.
cards. The single best thing about this game is the crafting system, as you can cobble together different components and build yourself unique custom kit. And that's really satisfying when you get a good piece of gear together.
The single best thing about the game is the city sieges at the end. In order to win them, you have to be well prepared, and when that plan comes together, it is very, very satisfying.
But the best thing about this game is looking at an innocuous card and thinking, can I build a deck around this? The best thing about this game is that the market crash is controlled by player actions. The more aggressively you market and flip land, the quicker the crash comes.
The single best thing about this game are the scenarios, and they change up the game and add in new events, increasing replayability in an already deep game.
The best thing about this game is it leans into the classic comic book feel instead of the movies and TV shows.
The single best thing about this game is that you can change the setting. 4 different enemy types come in the core game, and the expansions will add a bunch more.
The best thing about this game is its warm theme and inviting art. It looks absolutely lovely. The best thing about this game is that it moves quickly and doesn't overstay its welcome. If you lose a game, well, you can reset and play again in moments. The best thing about this game is the vision behind it. I admire the ambition driving asymmetric designs like this. The best thing about this game is its portability. You can take the game anywhere and everywhere.
The single best thing about this game is the roll system, which is quite similar to one of the designer's other games, Citadel's. Yet this time the role selection system seems to open up play options rather than close them down.
The best thing about this game is banging that little gavel. It's so good.
The best thing about this game is laughing about the negotiation phase once it's done and the giant mess you have made of it.
The best thing about this game is the art. It's just stunning from top to bottom. This is one of my favorite games in terms of overall presentation. It's just wonderful. The best thing about this game is the cinematic moments it produces and the gnawing tension throughout the game. The best thing about this game is the different motivations and how they change scoring. Playing Nemo the Explorer is a very different experience to playing Nemo at war.
The single best thing about this game is that almost every action is based on negotiation. There is very little randomness outside of the event cards.
The best thing about this game is the ridiculous oversized trade cubes. They're totally overkill and I love them for it. The best thing about this game is the brain-burning action selection. Trying to get the exact dice you want without giving any away is intense and made my brain fritz out at times. The best thing about Oaxaca is, in 30 odd minutes of playtime, you get to build an intricate engine full of interconnected effects. The best thing about this game, aside from the theme, is this chart on the back of the rulebook. I wish more games would give you a guide on how the game is actually scored. The best thing about this game is its presence on the table. It's massive. The best thing about this game is the beagle moving through the board. It's a wonderfully visual device and serves both a gameplay and thematic purpose. The best thing about this game is its simple rules and short playtimes. The best thing about this game is building an engine that works. It's so damn satisfying. The best thing about this game is that after a decade of owning it and countless games, it's still one I'm happy to play. The best thing about this game is the dice. If you love rolling dice, there are so many in this game, and even more if you add in the expansion. The best thing about this game is the stunning national park art. It's simply beautiful stuff. The best thing about this game is its commitment to the history and its supporting materials. This background book is exceptional stuff. The best thing about this game is its production. It's expertly made and looks beautiful. The best thing about this game is the Lazy Susan tile dispenser. It's a clever idea that speeds up setup and play a lot. The single best thing about this game is when you spot a complex and rewarding chain reaction and end up with a pile of marbles. Who cares if you can't use them all? The best thing about this game is dealing with scarcity. In a 5-player game, you can only ever have 3 power plants, so you have to keep replacing them as you go through the game.
The best thing about this game is the use of cards. Not only do they have a lot of information on them, they represent your economy as well. Costs are played in cards, goods are represented by face-down cards, and it just means you don't have extra tokens and things to worry about.
The best thing about this game is the place a worker, take a worker mechanic. It's a different take on worker placement, and it works really well. The best thing about this game is the place one worker, take one worker mechanic. It's just a classic.
The single best thing about the game is the consequences system. Knowing when to take an action and when to call a round over adds an awful lot of tension to the game.
The best thing about this game is the 5 of clubs. Just look at him. But seriously, the best thing about this game is the simplicity and elegance of its design. Well done. The best thing about this game is the game mode that doesn't require you to conquer the whole map. The best thing about this game is the action cards and the sheer levels of silliness they bring to the game.
The single best thing about the game is the scenarios. They are well varied and attempt to do very different things and explore different themes. Some are pure survival based, but others are more action oriented.
The best thing about this game is the satisfying clattering sound of jingling the dice in your cup before you roll. Love it. The best thing about this game is the action you get when placing a die. It's a really good decision point and where roleplayer shines. The single best thing about this game is that there is a faction that will likely suit any playstyle. Not keen on area control and war? Play a vagabond instead. The best thing about this game is the action programming, but as I've already mentioned that, I'll give a shout out to Rurik's excellent production values and wonderful storage systems. The best thing about this game is the sense of tension you get when you are hiding from the villains, or the satisfaction of saying, "Found you!" when you locate a spy. The best thing about this game is when it all works well and you have a wonderful looking, high scoring completed window.
The single best thing about the game are the negative characters. This is a clever mechanic designed to slow down players who get off to a flying start, without it feeling too forced. The single best thing about this game are the survivors. Most games are full of heroic figures, and so is Salvation Road. But every player is also saddled with a liability, like a guy who screams whenever there is trouble, or this annoying rich girl.
The best thing about this game is finally getting all those tourists into activities. It's oddly satisfying. But the best thing about this game is the intense back and forth, and in realizing that in 3 moves you can win, and you don't think they can stop you.
The single best thing about the game is the artwork and the world building. Jacob Rosowski has built an amazing world with his 1920s art, and Scythe was developed from that art, which is very unusual for a board game.
The best thing about this game is seeing the villain is going to ruin your day, but being able to counter it with smart play. The best thing about this game is the art style. I absolutely love it. Look at this guy. He's just happy to be here. The best thing about this game is the scoring aid. It's one of those genius ideas that keeps you focused on what you need to do and makes explaining the game so much easier. The best thing about this game is how you shift from making trades and haggling to building this giant expanding economy. No game mixes extroverted and introverted playstyles so vividly for me. The best thing about this game is the in-decline mechanic. Having new forces sweep across the map is really dynamic. The best thing about this game is its central premise. It's both fun and creates great gameplay.
The single best thing about this game is snakes. It's a crying shame American children are deprived of snakes.
The best thing about this game is how much game comes in this tiny box. The best thing about this game is that everyone's always engaged. You get to do stuff on other players' turns, and that's really good.
The best thing about this game is the look someone gives you when they have completely ballsed something up.
The best thing about this game is how damned legible the cards are. I can't get over how easy they are to read from across the table. The best thing about this game is shouting this when someone tries to attack you.
The single best thing about this game is when you've been fighting against the invaders for a while now, and your spirit is growing in power, so you decide to get a major power upgrade. Then your eyes light up when you see something awesome in your hand. You keep quiet until someone says, "How do we deal with this coastal city?" And you reply, "Well, I could always summon a tsunami."
The best thing about this game is the satisfying clunkiness of the tokens. The best thing about this game is it captures the feeling of playing casual Magic the Gathering without the pressure to spend more money. The best thing about this game is that it is a sandbox experience. If you want to turn Boba Fett into a back-to-tank salesman, you can. The best thing about this game is doing this. Take that, Jar Jar. The best thing about this game is the constantly evolving contraptions. Each turn is a new puzzle. The best thing about this game is the combination of adorable artwork, portability, and a great decision space. There's a lot of game in a small box.
The single best thing about the game is the sheer number of tiles and interactions. Including the expansion, this is only the A tiles. I'll then add in the B tiles, and then the C tiles.
The best thing about this game is how different characters can reveal different parts of the story. The best thing about this game is moving the pad around while going num 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 num.
The single best thing about the game is the fact the mayor has to give out amazing powers to their rivals. It's a clever come-from-behind mechanic that rewards the mayor for winning the election by giving the mayor's opponents the means to take them down.
The best thing about this game is how it looks. Rom, the guy who designed the model buildings, is from my hometown, and he was the guy who inspired me to take up miniature painting in high school. The best thing about this game is how the board evolves through play as the terraforming takes place, and how quickly you can be squeezed out.
The single best thing about this game is the card deck. There are a lot of cards and no duplicates, so no game will have the exact same draw.
The best thing about this game is the board design and the flip over markers. It's both innovative and a lot of fun to play around with.
The single best thing about the game is the art, and I kinda hate saying that a little as it undercuts Ryan as a game designer who makes games that would be good without his great art.
The best thing about this game is the exposure mechanic, which means people might bump you off resource tracks. It makes for some very tactical decisions on when and where to place.
The single best thing about this game is the Grow the Beard Battle Plan card, because I laugh every time it comes up, and it's such a fond tribute to Star Trek, just like the rest of this game.
The best thing about this game is those tense rounds when there are only a few tricks left to play and you narrowly squeak in the win. The best thing about this game is the new objective cards. So many ways to make each round feel fresh. The best thing about this game is the player-controlled scoring. This leads to some of the game's best decision points. The best thing about this game is that the war is not depicted as something that can be won, only something that can be survived. The best thing about this game is how it handles parody. It relies on tropes rather than direct statements. So this character isn't Juice Billis, for example.
The single best thing about the game is the endgame mechanic. As the mode is built, it limits options and makes decisions tougher and tougher.
The best thing about this game is the tension when all players are drawing from the bag simultaneously. It makes the game so much more exciting. The best thing about this game is that you can chain actions between players in a turn, truly working as a collaborative effort. The best thing about this game is just being a light war game that's good. That alone is an exceptional thing.
The single best thing about the game are the reality impact cards. When you draw one, you follow the instructions and go to the relevant story entry. These range from bittersweet encounters through to matter-of-fact depiction of war crimes and atrocities.
The best thing about this game is its app. It handles all the busy work that dramatically slows down the game in person. The best thing about this game is that they took an IP I loved and made an excellent game about it that's a great game in its own right. The best thing about this game is you never feel like you're out of it. Even if you lose a lot in one turn, you can jump right back in and steal someone's kingdom from them. The best thing in this game is when you call out a cube as the master builder and someone at the table curses you for it. The best thing about this game is the genuine sense of progression and development you get. The best thing about this game is yelling, "Comfy, I choose you!" and "I evolve Scrap Pillow into Stuffroids." The best thing about this game is just how open the strategies are. Each game I took a very different path. The best thing about this game is being able to take other people's dice. It adds so much tension to the table.
The single best thing about the game is that they included all 17 of the races from Twilight Imperium 3 and its expansions.
The best thing about this game is the card mechanics. Having a hand of your opponent's event makes for some really painful decisions. The best thing about this game is that your power ramps up, and so does the conflict as you start running out of space. The end game is great. The best thing about this game is the genuine sense of teamwork you get. When your plans come together, it's a mighty sense of achievement. The best thing about this game is that the AI responds to your actions. You are always screwed over by your own mistakes, not an unlucky event card. The best thing about this game is that you discard at the start of your turn. It speeds up the game and gives you the maximum time to consider your moves. More games should do this. The best thing about this game is playing it routinely with the same group. It develops its own life and legacy. The best thing about this game is the writing and overall feel. It's charming and silly, yet captivating.
The single best thing about the game is playing a game about a utopia as though it is something more sinister, with sacrifices and the elite's fickle fashions being the drivers behind the game.
The best thing about this game is the time system. It propels the game along, but also leads to the inevitable deaths of the family. The best thing about this game is when you use a special villager to pull off a sneaky but powerful move. The best thing about this game is despite the many paths you can take, your main decision each turn is, which one of these 3 cards do I play? The best thing about this game is the soothing process of planting, harvesting, bottling, and selling. I love games where mechanics feel intrinsically connected to their theme. The best thing about this game is its wonderfully executed asymmetry. Both sides play very differently, but they still feel balanced. The best thing about this game is the writing. It's legitimately good. The best thing about this game is the tension the race on the central board brings to it. The best thing about this game is laughing at how terrible my art skills are. The best thing about this game is 5 ships, 2 actions each. The game is tight and every decision counts. The best thing about this game is when you build a good chain of birds and can activate all their effects. The best thing about this game is that using guns hurts your business. It's refreshing to see pulling guns treated as an escalation.
The single best thing about the game is the theme, exemplified by the objective cards. Whether it's curing Paul Revere's lycanthropy or imbuing the Liberty Bell with power, the game playfully riffs on tropes from the War of Independence.
The best thing about this game is it's a historic miniatures war game that's easy to learn. These are rare. The best thing about this game is that it's about a fascinating bit of Japanese history designed by a Japanese game designer. It feels genuine to the source material and unique in how it plays.
The single best thing about the game is the leveling up and rising difficulty mechanic in the game. As your characters increase in experience, the enemies get more numerous, meaning the end game is wall-to-wall zombies.